If a man ignores you, the most common reaction is to ask yourself, what's wrong with you? But what if I told you that his indifference actually reveals much more about his own weaknesses than about any flaw in you? Carl Jung said that what we project onto others is often just a reflection of what we fear within ourselves. So why does a man choose to ignore you? What lies behind that attitude that seems cold, but in reality hides something much deeper? What is he trying to hide from you and perhaps even from himself? The male psyche, just like the female psyche, is full of shadows, unconscious parts that we struggle to repress. Jung called this the shadow, that part of our personality we don't want to admit exists. A man who ignores you may unknowingly be projecting his own insecurities, his fear of attachment, or even a sense of inferiority he cannot face. The truth is, many times his greatest weakness lies precisely in what he tries hardest to hide. But what makes a man act like this? Is it pride, emotional coldness, or deep down, is he afraid that by paying attention to you, he might reveal something he prefers to keep hidden? His silence may not be a sign of strength, but rather a symptom of an internal conflict that even he does not understand. And Jung already said that until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Is it possible that this man is truly in control, or has he simply become a prisoner of his own shadows? This is where many women make the fatal mistake. They interpret the silence as a challenge to overcome. They try to prove their worth, to attract his attention, to solve the mystery of this man. But Jung teaches us that true power lies in integration, not in desperate pursuit. What happens when you stop reacting to his silence and instead focus on what that silence is teaching you about yourself? What happens when you realize that many times a man's deepest weakness lies precisely in his inability to deal with what he feels for you? In this video, we will explore what it really means when a man ignores you and how his weakness can actually become your greatest advantage. You are about to see something that even he himself cannot admit. And once you understand it, you will never again be affected by his silence. He leaves and ignores you because he is certain you will always be there. He believes he can return at any time and find you just as before, available, attentive, waiting for a crumb of his attention. But what happens when that certainty disappears? What happens when he realizes that you are no longer the predictable woman he took for granted? Carl Jung said that the greatest illusion of the human being is to believe he can control what he does not understand. And the truth is that a man only feels the impact of an absence when he realizes that the security he once had has turned into uncertainty. His weakness does not lie in leaving or ignoring you. It lies in his belief that nothing will change, that you will always be there to feed his ego. But when you stop reacting, stop showing interest, stop offering that unwavering attention he always took for granted, something changes. You cease to be a passive piece in his story and become an enigma, something he can no longer easily decipher. And this is where he starts to enter into conflict, because according to Jung, human beings fear what they cannot predict. Doubt corrodes more than loss. How many women fall into the trap of trying to get the attention of a man who ignores them? They post indirect messages, check if he has seen their stories, try to stay present in every possible way. But all this only reinforces his illusion that he has power over you. You don't need to prove anything. The real game changes and you understand that your absence is worth more than any desperate attempt to be noticed. When he realizes that you no longer send messages, no longer react to his posts, no longer seek to be seen, a chasm opens in his mind. The woman he thought he knew no longer exists. And this is the first major weakness of a man who ignores you. He only feels in control as long as he believes you are still available. When that belief shatters, he enters a state of uncertainty that can lead him to do something he never imagined, question whether he has lost something valuable. Jung said that everything we reject in others is a reflection of what we reject in ourselves. And many times, a man ignores a woman because he does not want to confront the impact she has on him. But what happens if he suddenly realizes that he has lost that impact? Now let's go even further. Do you want to know the 5 most sensitive points of a man who pulls away and ignores you? The ones that, when touched, can make even the proudest men reconsider their attitudes? Then stay with me, because what comes next might completely change the way you view this game. When you disappear from his life, he begins to feel a discomfort that wasn't there before. Suddenly, that presence he took for granted is gone. And without realizing it, you give him a small dose of his own medicine. The silence he used to feel in control now turns against him. Carl Jung said that the human psyche balances between opposites, and when one extreme disappears, the other intensifies. If before he felt comfortable ignoring you, now discomfort begins to arise. Absence has a powerful effect. It makes him notice the space you occupied, and that emptiness begins to weigh on him. Soon after, he starts showing signs. You notice he viewed your stories, reacted to a post, left a subtle comment. It's as if he's saying, I'm still here. But what has changed? The difference is that now he no longer has the certainty that you will always be available. That attention he received effortlessly, that sense of importance he felt by ignoring you, has now become his greatest weakness. Jung teaches us that the human mind seeks balance, and when something constant disappears, the brain enters a state of alertness, and that's exactly the effect you've caused in him. The second weak point of a man who ignores you is the security he feels, knowing you're there waiting. Men who feed off female insecurity do so because it gives them a sense of power over the situation. If he senses that you believe you can't live without him, that you fear losing him, or that you think you won't find anyone better, then he feels comfortable ignoring you. But everything changes the moment you prove otherwise. When you project confidence, when your energy is no longer one of scarcity but of abundance, something inside him falls out of balance. Jung said that what we resist persists. And when a man realizes he's losing the control he thought he had over you, he begins to feel something he didn't feel before: uncertainty. The game changes when you strengthen your self-esteem and stop chasing crumbs of attention. You don't need to prove anything or chase anyone. A woman who knows herself, who knows her own worth, doesn't need to beg to be seen. She simply becomes irresistible because she doesn't place herself in the position of someone who needs. When you reach this level of confidence, you not only reclaim your power, but also undermine his security. He no longer has the certainty that he can ignore you whenever he wants. And it's at that moment that he starts to wonder, what if she's no longer there when I want to come back? Before moving on to the third weak point of a man who ignores you, I want to ask, have you ever been in a situation like this? Have you felt that a man ignored you because he knew he could do it without consequences? If this content is helping you, give it a like right now and let me know in the comments where you're watching this video from. And don't go just yet, because at the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly how to make a man who pulls away learn to value you and even fear losing you. So stay with me, because now we're going to the next weak point that can completely change this game. When a man pulls away and ignores you, he does it with the arrogance of someone who believes he is the center of your universe. He feels unique, as if his presence is essential to your happiness. And do you know why? Because many women, without realizing it, feed that illusion. They become wrapped up in the relationship, pour all their energy into him, and forget that there are other areas of their lives that also deserve attention. Carl Jung said that what we put our energy into grows. And when all your energy is focused on a man who ignores you, you only reinforce the power he believes he has over you. But what if he suddenly realized he's no longer the only point of interest in your life? The third weak point of a man who ignores you is precisely that feeling of exclusivity he believes he has. To break this cycle, you need to weaken that feeling of superiority that keeps him in his comfort zone. And the best way to do this is by strengthening your own relationships with your friends, with your family, with people who make you feel valued and complete. Maybe, without realizing it, you distanced yourself from those connections, putting all your attention on this man who now ignores you. But when you reconnect with the people around you, something powerful happens. Your life gains new perspectives, new colors. You begin to realize that he is not and never was the only pillar of your happiness. This doesn't mean you need to go out and find another man to replace him. On the contrary, the point isn't to find someone else, but to expand your vision of the world. When you strengthen your social bonds, you open yourself up to meeting new people, exploring new environments, and your presence becomes more magnetic. And do you know what happens to him at that moment? The feeling of being irreplaceable begins to crumble. Jung said that human beings fear losing control over what they believe they possess. And when a man realizes that he's no longer the center of your universe, he starts to feel exactly what he once made you feel: uncertainty. Another great weakness he carries unknowingly is his need to feel essential to you. Many men convince themselves that a woman needs them emotionally or financially, and this gives them a false sense of security. But when you show him that your life does not depend on his presence, that you don't need him, but rather choose who deserves to be by your side, something changes. You are no longer the needy woman he could ignore without consequences. You become an independent woman who doesn't need anyone to feel complete. And that scares him because it means that if he wants to be part of your life, he will have to prove he has something valuable to offer. And this is where the game completely changes. He can ignore you if he wants. But when you change, when you grow, when you become stronger and more confident in yourself, he no longer has the same power over you. He realizes that it's not you who is losing, it's him. Before moving on to the final advice, the one that will show you how to make a man who pulls away learn to value you, and even more, fear losing you, I want to ask, have you ever noticed this pattern in a relationship? Tell me in the comments. And if this video is opening your eyes, give it a like, because what comes next can completely transform the way you deal with this situation. So stay with me, because now we're getting to the last piece of this puzzle. A man's self-esteem is one of his most sensitive points, and also one of his greatest weaknesses when he chooses to pull away and ignore you. Carl Jung said that a person's identity is built from the projections and reflections they receive from others. When a man feels admired, desired, and valued by a woman, he receives a boost of self-esteem that feeds his ego, making him feel in control. But what happens when that source of validation gets cut off? What happens when suddenly he no longer feels that unconditional attention from you? He becomes vulnerable because the foundation that was sustaining his confidence simply disappears. The big truth here is that most men don't realize the impact of a woman's presence until she emotionally withdraws. It's not necessary to physically ignore him or play unnecessary games. The true impact happens when you stop treating him as someone special, when you stop magnifying his presence, when he becomes just another person in your world. It affects his psyche in a way he can't even explain. Jung said that the human unconscious acts symbolically. And when a man senses that the woman who once elevated him no longer behaves the same, he feels he's losing something valuable, even if he doesn't understand exactly what. This is one of the most powerful weak points of a man. He gets used to being desired and admired without having to do anything to maintain that status. But the moment that validation disappears, something inside him begins to change. What was once just a comfort becomes a need, a void he doesn't know how to fill. And it's precisely there where you must stay one step ahead. Instead of begging for attention or trying to prove your worth, you simply withdraw that energy from him and redirect it towards yourself. You become the woman who doesn't need him to feel amazing. And that shift makes him realize that he lost something he once took for granted. The secret to affecting his self-esteem intelligently is to apply the principle of reciprocity. Jung said that relationships are mirrors, and if you always reflect admiration, desire, and attention toward him without receiving the same in return, he will never feel the need to value it. When you nurture his self-esteem, when you give him your trust and affection, you must be sure that you are receiving the same in return. If he feels he can have everything from you without any effort, if he believes he deserves your dedication simply by existing, he will never truly perceive your real value. And that's why so many women end up frustrated, because they give everything, hoping that someday, in some uncertain future, he will finally recognize and reciprocate it. But this is the change you need to make now. A woman who knows her own worth never gives everything away for free. She understands that in a relationship, there must be balance. And now, before moving on to the final advice, the one that will show you how to make a man who pulls away feel afraid of losing you and learn to value you, I want to ask, have you ever been in a situation where you felt you gave more than you received? Tell me in the comments. And if this video is opening your eyes, give it a like, because what's coming next can completely change the way you handle this situation. So stay with me, because now we are reaching the answer. most important part of all of this, the major shift happens when you understand that the way a man treats you is a direct reflection of how he perceives his own value in your life. If he feels he can ignore you and you'll still be there, available, waiting for a crumb of attention, he will never be afraid of losing you. Carl Jung explained that human beings have an unconscious impulse to test the limits of others to understand how far they can go without consequences. And many men do this in relationships without even realizing it. They pull away, ignore, act indifferent because they know that no matter what they do, the woman will still be there. But what if that certainty suddenly disappeared? When you stop offering free validation and take away the security he once felt, his ego enters a crisis. He had gotten used to the idea that your attention was guaranteed, something he could have effortlessly. But the moment he realizes he has to work to regain it, he feels something he may have never felt before: insecurity. Jung said that the human psyche seeks patterns and predictability. And when a woman changes her behavior unexpectedly, a man who thought he had control begins to experience deep discomfort. He realizes that the game has changed and now he is the one who must prove himself to you. This is the difference between a woman who is valued and a woman who is ignored. The first understands that her attention is a gift, not an obligation. She doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, she doesn't accept less than she deserves. And when a man feels that he might lose her, he is forced to reconsider his behavior. His desire for control transforms into a need to be accepted again. But the key here is that at this point, you are no longer waiting for his approval. You have become the woman who chooses who deserves to be by her side. And this shift in mindset is what finally makes him realize your true value. But there's an even more important detail. For this impact to be real, you need to act genuinely. It's not about pretending disinterest or playing mind games. It's about truly understanding that you never had to beg for anyone's attention. The biggest mistake a woman can make is living with the hope that a man will someday recognize her value while she herself does not recognize it. Jung said that what we accept in others is a reflection of what we accept within ourselves. If you accept less than you deserve, if you keep investing in someone who doesn't invest in you, this is the message you are sending to your own subconscious, that you are not enough. And this belief needs to be broken. Now, imagine what happens when a man realizes that you no longer need him to feel amazing. Imagine the confusion in his mind when he understands that suddenly he no longer has the control he thought he had. It is at that moment that he feels fear. Fear of losing you, fear of no longer being important, fear of realizing that maybe he made the biggest mistake of his life. And that's when you finally have the control. So before moving on to the final advice, I want to ask you, have you noticed this dynamic in your life? At the end of it all, the big question you need to ask yourself is not about him. It's about you. Why did you accept so little when you always deserved so much more? Carl Jung said that what we don't face within ourselves, we end up projecting outward. Have you spent too much time worrying about a man who ignores you, worrying about what he feels, what he wants, what he thinks? Then maybe it's time to ask yourself, where is that same dedication when it comes to yourself? Did you at some point place your self-worth in his hands? The biggest mistake a woman can make is thinking that she needs to prove her worth to someone who should already see it for himself. The truth is hard, but it's also freeing. If a man feels he can ignore you without losing anything, then he will never truly value you. And if he believes he can come back at any time and find you just the same, without having to do anything to earn his place, then he will never fear losing you. You are the one who teaches others how you deserve to be treated. You are the one who defines the boundaries of what you accept and what you don't. And if up until now you haven't been valued, maybe it's time to completely change this dynamic. And the truth is, deep down, all of this isn't about him. It's about how you see yourself. Jung said that everything we attract is a reflection of what we carry inside. If you constantly find men who ignore you, who pull away, who don't give you the priority you deserve, then it's time to look within. When did you accept this kind of treatment? When did you start thinking you needed to fight for someone's attention? Because a woman who knows her own worth never needs to beg to be seen. She simply shines by herself. And here's the crucial point. The man who ignores you today might seem confident, but deep down, he is afraid. Afraid of losing control, afraid of no longer being the center of your world, afraid of realizing that maybe he has wasted the attention of an incredible woman. And if you follow everything you have learned here, if you strengthen your self esteem, become emotionally independent, and never again accept less than you deserve, he will feel that change. And in that moment, he will have two choices. Either he learns to value you, or he realizes he never had as much power over you as he thought. But ask yourself, do you really want someone who only recognizes your worth when he's afraid of losing you? Isn't it time to change your perspective and understand that you deserve someone who chooses you without games, without tests, without you having to prove anything? A woman who has options never despairs over a man who pulls away, because she knows that at the end of the day, true love does not need to be forced. True love flows. And if you have to fight just to be seen, maybe it's time to stop fighting and start prioritizing yourself. What you've learned here today isn't just about making a man feel your absence. It's about becoming the woman who never again has to beg for attention. It's about how to stop being someone who waits for a message, a sign, or validation, and instead become someone who simply lives her life because she knows that self-love is what truly attracts everything worthwhile. Because the moment you change your energy, the whole world responds to it. And that man who once thought he could ignore you suddenly finds himself desperate to win back what he lost. And now I want to leave you with one final question. Do you want to stay stuck in the same place, waiting for a man to finally recognize your value? Or do you want to become the woman who never again has to worry about that because she already knows exactly who she is? The answer is within you, and so is the choice, because at the end of the day, what truly makes you powerful is not the effect you have on others, but the way you see yourself. And once you learn this, you will never again accept less than you deserve. If this video opened your mind, if it made you see things from a new perspective, I now have a request for you. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to keep receiving content like this, because you deserve more than just a video that makes you reflect. You deserve an entire path of transformation, and this is only the beginning. And of course, if this content helped you, give it a like right now. This not only helps me continue bringing topics that truly make a difference, but also helps other women who need to hear this know that they are not alone. So if you've ever gone through a situation like this, share your experience in the comments. Let's talk about it. And lastly, remember, the power has always been in your hands. You just needed to realize it. Now go and live the life you deserve without waiting, without doubting, without begging for anything. Because the woman who knows her worth never has to ask for what should already be hers.